For me, personally, one of the most appealing prospects of returning to the Bourne franchise was the chance to reunite with one of my favorite directors and good friends, Paul Greengrass. Paul's style is completely unique, and it was a lot of fun to collaborate with him once again. Take a look behind the scenes to see how Paul brought his signature style back to Bourne.
It's a very special franchise. It's a much-loved character.
B-marker.
Strangers on the street will consistently ask me, when are they going to make another Bourne movie?
Every airport I'm in or every time I'm walking down a street, that's the first question. Are you going to do another one of those Bourne movies? I don't mind being followed around by Jason Bourne. I like Jason Bourne.
Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne. Why would he come back now?
There had been rumors that Matt and Paul were going to make another one.
One thing that I always said consistently was that I'd do it if he did it. You know, and every few months it seemed like we would have a Bourne conversation, but we couldn't really seem to get anywhere until about 18 months ago.
The easy thing for us all to have done would have been to have turned up years ago and just done one without much thought. But I know I didn't want to do that, and I know Matt didn't want to do that, and that's why we didn't.
Meet me at the entrance to the corner.
We waited just because we didn't want to make another Bourne movie before we were ready with a good story.
You can only make these films
Good job, guys.
if you feel it for real. So you've got to be true to the character, continue to tell that story in an original way.
Sorry, can I just double check? Everybody's happy with that, yeah?
The things that we were most concerned with is having not just another sequel, having a change in the world that was relevant and would then inspire us into telling a new story.
And the incredible relatability of Matt Damon as an actor and as the character in Jason, I think, is what gets people very excited.
I heard you were hacked.
Our enemies have become much more sophisticated.
We had the germ of an idea that would explore Bourne a decade after we'd last seen him, and explain what he'd been doing and what his state of mind was, and would propel us on a new adventure.
Bourne carries the burdens of his sins of the past, so it ultimately becomes really an existential tale for him. You know, it's only a matter of time before he's going to reach critical mass.
Clear to engage the target.
I'm accessing CCTV now.
We had to put this new chapter of the Bourne franchise into the modern world.
It's on a computer.
You know, Bourne kind of quickly finds himself matched against somebody who has a skill set that he isn't as familiar with.
We're heading into the new world. It's Bourne, but there's now a fourth version of warfare.
So what's the status?
There's this whole area of CIA activity. They're going to be working on cyber, artificial intelligence.
Heather Lee is one of the key aspects of cyber research at CIA, and that's what she's a specialist in. I don't think her job existed 10 years ago.
You could almost
Go in on it.
you know what I mean, and really feel, because she's communing with it.
Yeah, yeah.
She's playing the instrument, is what's going on.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
She's carrying that computer with her everywhere, and it's part of her personality and what makes her feel the most powerful and yet the most safe.
I appreciate your enthusiasm, but do not push your personal agenda to the DNI.
Sort of generational shift of all these young people coming in with a new skill set. They're impatient for change.
Sir, does the asset know Bourne?
And they're as impatient for change inside the intelligence community as they are outside in the world that we see out there.
It's happened with technology and our civil liberties. To what extent people are keeping tabs on us and on our digital life.
That's when it got exciting, really, because you suddenly felt that Bourne was not in the old binary world of identity and supremacy and ultimatum. He was in a much more interesting modern world where his loyalties was much less clear than it once had been.
Drive.
I think that's testimony to Paul always having a great sense of what's timely and what's contemporary. That was something that he felt very compelled to start our story in.
It wasn't supposed to go like this. I wanted to talk.
It feels like it's the next chapter in the story, and that's what I most wanted.
I know who I am. I remember what happened. I remember all of it.
They actually picked up all the threads that they had laid out, or they brought it back together.
Remembering everything doesn't mean you know everything.
Paul knows all the kind of clues that he's put out there, and he's very concerned and very precise in that he wants to make it all come together.
I'm talking about Richard Webb, your father.
Not bad.
Paul's style is that we feel like we're witnessing things real time.
He's observing the reality as opposed to forcing a situation that he maybe imagined months ago. So he manages to be very methodical and then also very spontaneous.
He's looking at the movie as it's being made, and it's kind of speaking back to him, and then that's giving him new ideas.
But you won't be able to take your eye line and you can't reset. But I'm thinking that you can take your eye line, don't you think?
Both Paul and I came out of a documentary background. We try and just be a bit more open and free and looking for that genuine thing that happens between human beings. And, you know, that privileged place that a camera can be.
3, 2, 1, go. Barry and Paul have a shorthand, so Barry's like an extension of Paul in that way. He also knows when something's good and when something's real. That's what you really want with your director and your cinematographer.
Coming around a little this way, yeah.
He keeps the cameras in motion all the time. I've almost never seen a fixed frame. They're either handheld, they're on a slide tray, they're on a dolly, they're hanging from a bungee cord. There's a big, beautiful crane on top of one of these cars, and that thing's moving in all directions at once. He uses just about anything to keep the lens in motion.
And action.
It's a very special franchise to me, obviously. So you've got to continue to tell that story in a way that people will go, oh, that felt like a Bourne movie. We have to give our audience very early on proof that we're not kidding around. We're not just turning up. And I said, unfortunately, that comes down to you, Matt.
Yeah, I'm a little older, so so it takes longer. But yeah, no, it's a lot of weight training and a lot of boxing, cross training, strict diet, and stuff like that. I'll look up at you, like literally look at you and see you.
Actually been 15 years, I think I counted, since Identity, which is all of my adult life. It's kind of, so far, it's kind of crazy.
No, it's been a defining role in my life and my career, and it's been a huge role for me on a whole number of levels. You know, to do something 4 separate times in your career, it's gonna follow you around.
One of the great things about these movies is we've all become really good friends.
The great thing about working with the same people is it goes back to that issue of trust. I'm excited to be working on a Paul Greengrass movie again. He's a great person to work for. I just trust him completely.
When you make a film, you want people you can trust, and there's no better friend and colleague than Matt. It was absolutely exciting to see suddenly, oh, there's Jason Bourne. You know what I mean? He's back.
That was absolutely terrific. Absolutely brilliant.
For this film, we showcased Bourne's bare-knuckle boxing skills, which meant getting one of the best boxing trainers in the world to show me the ropes, so to speak. I worked with Matt Damon to make sure Bourne's skills were top-notch. Here's a look at some of the work that went into making Bourne a bare-knuckle boxer. You find him in a very dark place at the beginning of the movie.
He's growing increasingly unable to live off the grid. And in the end, he's driven to express that torment through underground fighting circuits.
You get a sense that he's doing this not out of any kind of healthy desire to, you know, to compete with other athletes or anything like that. He's got all of these demons and he's tortured and he's suffering. So Paul wanted to construct something that was a physical manifestation of that.
Talking to Paul and Matt of, okay, what have you been doing for the last 9 years? Why are you in this position and state?
So he finds himself in another world where it's not necessarily only tactical. It's actually in a situation where he's competing for money.
There was 2 bare-knuckle fights to start off with. The first one was like a bigger fight, and then when we got there on the day, we started talking. What if he just comes in and just one blow just takes the guy out completely?
He was going to go down to the floor.
And Matt loved the idea of it.
Doing a little bare-knuckle fighting. He's basically pounding other human beings into oblivion and getting pounded himself into oblivion just as a way to try to cope with the thoughts in his head that he can't get away from.
All right, shooting.
Matt is actually quite proficient already with boxing. He has his own boxing coach.
I started boxing a little over 15 years ago for the first Bourne movie. The director, Doug Liman, said he wanted the character to walk like a boxer. And I was like, I don't even know what that means. And he said, I don't either, but there's something about the way those guys move. They're really economic in their movements. You can just tell that they're ready for anything. So I just started taking boxing lessons, and I loved it, and I felt like it was really helpful. Now it's been something I've been doing for 15 years, and it's just a lot of fun. I first started training in LA with a guy named Terry Claybon, who was incredible, and he was the first person to teach me. He worked with Denzel Washington on The Hurricane. And then when I moved to Miami, I was looking for someone, and what you really want to find is somebody who works with professional boxers, and Matt just works with a ton of fighters.
We're just going over some of the fight stuff that Roger came up with, and then some stuff that I kind of added in, just to get them warmed up and loose and ready to go.
Matt, his trainer, does a lot of training with him. Then Roger, the fight trainer, starts going through the choreography and stuff like that, and then we put the two together.
For me, everything that I try to do as a coordinator is to make sure that it's based in reality, that there's an application to every movement. And what I did was basically utilize the bare-knuckle boxing research that I've done, looking at YouTube and working with friends that have been doing it on their own.
Fight choreography is really like dancing. It really is. You have two people, and they have to be doing, it's not a real fight, so they have to know exactly what the other person's doing to kind of sell every single move. And so you have to be completely in coordination.
The second bare-knuckle fight, which he did with a guy called Brian Nichols, was really amazing. The pair of them trained for weeks.
Brian's actually a bare-knuckle fighter. He's had professional fights before, and the guy is an absolute savage.
I'm like a rough old fighter. I don't know why they picked me, but they did.
And he starts warming up. I think the whole crowd gets nervous, even though they're really not hitting each other. He's got that intensity. You know, he's jumping around like a fighter in the ring. He's getting himself juiced up, and I'm like, he may actually hit somebody today.
All right, guys, enjoy. Roll sound. Backwards.
This is a perfect recreation. We have these fights in Miami all the time, which are underground, and you actually feel like you're in a fight. People are yelling, money's getting put up for bets, people are getting bloody, they're getting broken noses, broken jaws, losing teeth. It's perfect.
The atmosphere is fantastic. It just gives you a real buzz. It makes you feel like I'm back there. You know, I love it. I love it.
You didn't give him real beer, did you?
Not yet.
With boxing, there's obviously certain rules that you've got. You know, you can't punch below the belt, can't throw punches from behind. Here, you can pretty much do anything you want. You can gouge, bite, kick, stamp. So, you know, it's quite a bit different to what, say, Bourne's done in previous films and previous fights.
For me, it was an interesting kind of take because obviously he's doing something that is not normal in his world, but he's still training and to compete in a very, very bloody, ruthless game.
And then he comes and throws those two things, and we lock up, and he pushes me back in here, and that's the moment when we see each other.
I saw it as an opportunity to kind of hone his technique and yet still stay true to Bourne. With the Kali style, the dirty boxing, the Filipino style, the Wing Chun, and the tactical CQC.
Matt Damon has been absolutely fantastic, easy to work with, and great mover. As you'll see, Matt's in great shape. He's in really good shape, he's fit, and then he keeps going, he just keeps going.
It is a dance, and that timing and the fluidity and moving with Matt without hurting each other was a very, very important part of that, as well as making it look as realistic as possible. And at the same time, both Matt and Brian, you know, and I told them, give each other some love, meaning at this point, if you're hitting to the body, yeah, go ahead and make a little contact. And Matt was, you know, he was brilliant, you know, and he was, as people will see, he really, really trained up for it and was in great shape for it.
With Brian, like everybody, I always tell them, I'm going to hit you. Like, I'm not purposely, but I know that like, we're going really fast and choreography is really specific, but you know, accidents happen. And for these guys, accidents don't happen. I rarely get hit, but I'm always accidentally
hitting someone. But my deal with these guys is I always buy them a bottle of champagne for every time I hit them. So Brian, for instance, got a case of champagne at the end of the fight. And for these guys who are pro fighters, like, I'm not hitting them that hard, so they actually like the bargain. It's actually good for them. They've been hit for less in their lives, so they don't mind.
Set and background!
They put like 200% into it. I mean, they really did look like they was beating the crap out of each other.
What a fight that was.
Jason Bourne has this USB stick with information of his past. He wants to know it, and he can't open it. He has to find the soul to do it for him. He's a hacker. He's very famous in the hacker community, but everybody wants to work with him, but it's not easy because he's kind of a loner.
One of the most important things about Dassault is that he was a transient character and very much lived in the shadows, but was also very cool and cutting edge. We had to give an environment that reflected that.
Open it.
And then we came across the abandoned Croydon Art College, which had this photography studio, which was perfect. It had these amazing angled windows, which gave you a really strange environment and actually worked really well for the shots back with the CCTV.
We should work together, Bourne. We both want to take down the corrupt institutions that control society.
I'm not on your side.
And Christian wants to share this information with the world. So there will be an argument about that, and, well, I think I will lose. In a very painful way.
The one fight that we have with Dassault, basically he attacks him with his weights, and Bourne has to fight back after being nailed with dumbbells.
We had 3 days of rehearsal for that. We had a lot of fun, and Matt came in too, and he's so nice. He really gave me a really warm welcome, so we had fun with it.
The great thing about these is you get surrounded by all these experts, and so Roger, who's working with us, you can just give him an idea, and he can come up with 7 different ways to do it really quickly, and you can just look at which one looks the coolest.
It's very challenging because with Paul, he might think of something, but then when it comes on the day to shooting it, something else will click, and that's what makes him a brilliant filmmaker, because organically he can see something that is better, that suits the story better.
We're kind of building the fights like fans of movie fights, which I think is a good thing.
Pretty good, I think. It's a style of fighting where you use your hands and your feet, you use anything. We've got to see him exploiting that.
He's always trying to neutralize whatever the other person has, and he'll use kind of found objects, which is something that all Treadstone agents are able to do in this mythology. It's like they can just pick up anything and use it to their advantage.
Paul works intensively with stunt coordinators. It becomes a dance that we initially suggest on page, and then the choreography is developed and executed on set.
Yeah, so that breaks off in my hand.
In that fight, he actually breaks a chair and uses pieces of the chair legs.
There's his baton. That's what he's going to use. He's going to block that bar that's coming at him, counter smash, and then kicks the barbell and knocks it into Dassault's shin. You know, that's Bourne-like, just using the environment. You're attacking me, okay, you just missed, I'm gonna make you pay for that now. Here, eat this. The barbell goes into the shin, and then eat this too, pop, and knocks him out.
It was yesterday, because today I can feel it. The hitting by mistakes happens during that scene, sometimes. Of course, there's no real danger of hurting each other, because the stuff we are smashing and hitting us with, it's all soft, you know. But sometimes we get each other, and it's fun, because then it's real. Then you know you had the contact, and then you can react perfectly to it.
3, 2, 1, action!
Kidney shot.
I've been surrounded by these incredibly talented people for many, many, many movies, many years. And it just allows me to just focus on my job and only my job. And when everybody does that, it's incredibly seamless and incredibly easy and really fun. And, you know, you all grow old together and take a bite out of life together. It's a lot of fun.
Armed suspect heading into storm drain south of the Riviera.
This movie has the mother of all treadstone fights. It's the last two guys. This is the toughest opponent for him.
It's one of the most brutal fights we've ever had.
It's very realistic, very in-your-face, more intense than any of the other Bourne fights that we've seen.
We're ready to go. Here you go.
We needed an opponent for Bourne, but we wanted to deepen the personal connection. So this is a character who's got a personal grudge against Bourne.
You're a traitor. Always been a traitor.
And I've always loved Vincent, and he had great sense of humour. He'd come in the morning and say, okay, who am I going to kill today? Because I'm the bad guy.
We're very lucky to have Vincent because he actually practices capoeira like he's a proper martial artist.
We trained separately. You have to learn the choreography and make it efficient.
Given the arcs of those two characters and where we wanted to drive them both, we left the fight to the end of the film because we had to increase the stakes and increase the intensity.
It's supposed to take place in a storm drain, so there's all this detritus that we're going to try and use.
So we sort of come down here and all the assets sort of making his way through, Bourne's making his way through, Bourne intercepts him.
Both men are already injured. They're very highly trained, but at the same time, they're both desperate.
And 3, 2, 1, go.
I felt that we needed to be true and authentic to the original franchise. When it came to the style of the fighting, it didn't feel to me credible that Jason Bourne could suddenly have learnt a whole new repertoire of moves. And it felt to me like Vincent would have the same moves, so that made for a really exciting fight.
There's a history, and so it's just cold hatred. There's times and moments where screw technique and precision, throw that out the window. They just want to beat the shit out of each other.
The choreography is awesome. I mean, we've been working on it for a while, and it's a very punishing fight.
So it's
The choreographers are really good, so it's a mix of a lot of different things, but it has to be effective more than beautiful.
There's no high kicking and blah, 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 you know, that we've seen in other movies eventually. This is very much about, like, counterattack as soon as possible.
It's always collaboration, so I'm very, very fortunate working with Gary and our fight doubles and our fight team, as well as our actors and everyone that's been involved with the fights. We do it in a way that's like a dance, because we as human beings, we remember. It's like why we remember phone numbers. We can't remember 7 digits, but we can remember 3 and then 4. You build one on top of the other. But if you do it in a way that's rhythm of 4, rhythm of 3, they learn it fast, and the audience can see it in the actual performance of the fight.
B camera mark. And 3, 2, 1, go.
There's some really great technical stuff in it, and you can only do with 2 characters or kind of this incredibly high level.
Go.
The challenge was that they're both from Treadstone, so there's an element of his fighting ability that we wanted to make almost as though he could be a little bit better in certain aspects. As you'll see in the fight, he is, especially with a knife.
See, with the knife, you know, we've got a real one, but we don't use that in the actual fight for obvious reasons. You know, it's sharp, it's pointed. So we do have softer rubber ones, which are fine for certain things, but obviously as soon as they make contact, they bend, which they're supposed to do. So then we have ones that are cut down, so if we're going for a stab or a slice, visual effects can add the blade onto it, and then we can obviously get a lot closer.
One, go!
Okay? Yeah, I think I broke the knife, yeah.
You stabbed me.
Did I?
Yeah, no, I didn't get out of the way.
Two characters are at this incredibly high level, passing a knife back and forth between each other and disarming.
Hold on, wait. Is that real good? Yeah, I got him right on the eyebrow.
And there's also an element in the midst of that big fight. They are using anything and everything that's around. And then I wanted to bring it back to what Bourne films were as well, and that is ended with brutal technical efficiency, where Bourne kind of takes out the asset with what he does best.
Cut.
Thank you very much. I think we've done the fight.
When an asset from the CIA is hunting you down, you're going to end up in a chase or two. Over the years, Bourne has been in his fair share of car chases, foot chases, and motorcycle chases. This time, we pulled out all the stops to create the most exhilarating, heart-pounding chases the franchise has seen so far. Here's an inside look at what we did.
We're trying to make a very grounded sequence and trying to put an audience within the action.
Hold on! It's not like a stunt sequence that you would find in other films.
They're hard work, these scenes, because a lot of people, a lot of extras, police, burns, cars turned over, broken windows.
I'm going to be doing some really hair-raising stuff on a motorcycle.
We're not really just going for spectacle, it's all Bourne-centric. So it's coming up with something that we are doing practically, not with visual effects.
Everything you see is real, there's no cheating, it's all real stuff.
It's very grounded action, and it's very character-driven action, so we're in there with the actors are doing a hell of a lot.
That was part of selling that this is the authentic Bourne experience.
Bourne's trying to save Nicky. The asset is trying to kill the pair of them. There's obviously a lot going on. There's a big story that we had to tell.
It's a mad chase through the riots. The most important thing is keeping it safe. We're doing high speeds, things can go wrong, so we've got to be prepared for if things go wrong.
Couldn't really do a car chase because, there's thousands of people everywhere and, you don't really want to be ploughing people down. So it was a bike chase we come up with.
Whenever we can, we use remote cameras. So either they're positioned in the road or on vehicles, just so there isn't an operator in harm's way.
A police bike is used in a chase. So there are lots of needs for the bike. For me, it was very clear that we had to use lightweight enduro bikes and dress them up to look like police bikes, which would enable us to do the kind of stuff that we wanted to do that would completely destroy a real bike. So to get through the sequence, we had 26 of those.
It's always difficult when there's two people on a bike, and we had great people, riding the bikes.
For most of the bike chases, two people on the bike. That presents all its own problems straight away. The off-road bikes are traditionally made for one person, so we had to completely strip them and design a subframe on the rear that would enable two people to be on the bike.
I rode the motorcycle, but I didn't do any of the incredibly hairy stuff that I never would have been able to get insured for. They have this guy, Paul, who was like the best enduro rider in Europe, who just did things that it would take a lifetime to train for.
Matt did a lot, but the specialist stuff, you thought, oh, that's really, I could do that on a bike. And then you sort of get on it, and no, there's no way. These guys are fantastic.
It was tricky stuff, but he actually made it look really easy.
Well, we have a great stunt motorcyclist in Paul, and we have a girl, Katie, on the back. And it's actually her first movie as a stunt performer, and she's doing a fantastic job. I mean, they're very brave and very skilled.
What's great about technology today is face replacement. Jason Bourne's supposed to be an expert at everything, so what happens is I get surrounded by all these experts, and they help me do all of it that I can, and then when I can't do it, they step in and they do it, and now they've got the ability to actually put my face on this guy Paul's body, so it's gonna look just like Jason Bourne's doing him in the movie. You want it to feel seamless so that people buy the magic trick.
Oh my God, that's fantastic.
Instead of the asset being on a motorcycle, which would have made telling the story of Bourne getting away a little more difficult, a little more challenging, it was decided that we put him in a car.
So he's driving his Volkswagen that's pretty much the whole front end's on fire.
We had a mortar on the front of the car and it explodes. What we found out was it took all the oxygen around the car away and stalled the car. So we had to rework that. So we decided that what we were going to do is ran all the air intakes under the car and out the side so it was getting clean air. And it worked.
We've got video monitors in there for it to sort of see, but it's still really tricky.
We systematically destroyed that car. We drove it into a wall at the end.
He's always using the particular characteristics of whatever vehicle he's in to his advantage. He can go down alleyways, he can go in smaller spaces.
And so he takes him into a place where only the bike can go.
It's a mad chase up and down stairs.
There's hundreds and hundreds of staircases here for us to choose from. So for sort of our story of what we're telling, it was actually a great location.
It's really difficult to film because our cameras are quite heavy, and so we've got another motorbike that chases it. It looks really exciting.
We always want the movies to feel like they're in the real world.
We've got very tight corners, we're going at high speed. It's full-on carnage.
It's real gritty, down and dirty stuff.
There's a lot of force and energy that'll be on display.